Hello, welcome to the Round 9 review as the Carlton Football Club have defeated the Saints, St Kilda Footy Club, Friday night at the MCG in front of 66-ish thousand people. It was 11 goals 11, 77 to 9 goals 8, 62. 15-point winners in what proved to be a hard-fought victory, and one that the Blues needed to earn, and one that cannot be questioned, and the validity of the opponent cannot be questioned, and it's just a solid win. And that takes the Blues now to 4 wins and 5 losses after round 9. And things don't look, all of a sudden, they don't look as bad as what they once did. Wow, what a week. There was a lot going on with this game. I started preparing for this game pretty quickly. I was very happy to move on from round 8. Blues are coming off as bad of a loss and as bad of a performance as what they've displayed this season. Beaten in all the areas in which they pride themselves on. The Saints, on the other hand, had a very convincing win, both on the offensive end and on the defensive end, against the Dockers. So coming into the match and speaking with Jake from Saints TV and doing our preview at the MCG early in the week, and not only him, just St Kilda fans in general, there was a different level of confidence about the Saints this time around, and fair enough, because prior to round 9 they'd beaten us 7 times out of the last 10, playing good footy, 10-goal win at home at Marvel against the Dockers, and they just felt good, and fair enough. And I felt edgy and I felt confident but also fearful. The reality is with the Blues, you just don't know which attitude you're going to get week to week at times. My level of trust has been eroded, and mentally when they're on, they're hard to beat, and sometimes when they're 5% off, they're easy to beat. So it was just tricky. And also there's a level of respect now for the Saints, given they're coached by Ross Lyon, and he's a good coach, and he knows what he's doing, and he seems to have the answers. And so there was just a bit of trepidation going into the game. It was also Spud's game, so a massive occasion for the Saints, who put on so many activations. I took part in the ride for Spud 24 hours before the game. So from 2 p.m. on Thursday to 2 p.m. on Friday, they had different people riding around on their bikes for 1 hour at a time. And I was there with Jake, 11 p.m. Thursday night, which was an experience, riding around the MCG in the middle of the night, nobody around, although there was a concert happening. I think it was The Offspring. So there was a few people giving us some strange looks, given that we were just riding around the MCG on a tandem bike. So that was nice. It was good to get around it, and I think for St Kilda, fair play. That was so well executed. The whole theme, the whole pre-game, all of it, it was done very well. And we are not necessarily going to be a part of Spud's game every year. I think they will choose every year who they will play in the Spud's game. So it was great to be a part of it. And also from the footy point of view, I was glad to play St Kilda at the G and not Marvel, because that's generally where they give us headaches. So yeah, going in confident but fearful. The game day live stream was interesting. It's always interesting for me to try and pick up the fan sentiment pre-game now, when we do the pre-game game day stream. And if you just circle back to team selection, yeah, I think after the bad loss last week, it just left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. The selection comments were just crazy. Like, lost this game at selection, sack him now, too tall. So many negative sentiments around team selection, as if we had lost the game. I don't generally get too worked up about team selection. My perception of the team was that, yeah, it seemed a little bit tall. I thought it might have been because Charlie might have been sore after the collision with TDK on Wednesday night, but it was part of the plan. I thought maybe if Charlie doesn't get up, Lewis can play forward, or if Charlie does get up, maybe Lewis would be laid out. And that ended up being disrespectful to Lewis Young, who has performed a role all year. And as we start getting into this game, it was pretty evident early in the game that the Lewis Young inclusion, or the lack of exclusion, worked. First quarter and halfway through the second, it stretched the Saints' backline. They had something else to deal with. It made us less predictable. It helps when Lewis hits the scoreboard, which he did. And so I would hope to see sentiment around, well, Vossi got this one right, and Vossi outcoached Ross, because that was what it was going in. Oh, can't win this game in the coach's box. Just can't. Ross just knows what he's doing. And I do wonder how much of that got through to Michael Voss, if he saw it, if he saw a little bit of it, because if I was him, I'd be fucking very happy with that. So, yeah, full credit to Michael Voss on that one. Coach Vossi. Game starts I thought it was a pretty good contest early. I mean, Higgins gets his first goal just like a bounce of the fuck off. And it starts with that. I thought, okay, here we go. Jack Higgins, who has put himself into that category of, you know, there's certain players in the league from the opposition who just have a piece of your heart. Jamie Elliott's got a piece. Cozzy Pickett's got a little piece. Robbie Gray's got a piece. Jack Higgins has a little piece of my heart, and it's going to be that way forever. So he gets the first goal. Filthy at that. They started pretty hot. The Saints kicked the first couple, and then the Blues started getting into it. Harry kicks his first. The Saints get a goal off a poor turnover from, I think it was Jackson Binns, who then redeemed himself by kicking a goal, kept his width, and he had a nice first quarter. He had a nice first half. He had a nice game. And I was really pleased for him to see him stand up and look the part, and not look like he was a young fella that was in his first season. He looked like he had gone back and done some development, particularly in his body. So that was pleasing. Charlie gets hot, kicks 2 in a row, and then it sort of starts, like the story of the game starts unfolding, and that was the injury. So McGovern goes down in a collision and subsequently ends up going to hospital. Sternum, chest is what Vossi mentioned in his presser. So at the time of filming this, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but yeah, he goes down. So, we lose a soldier there again in the first quarter. Don't know what that's about, because that's happened again. So we lose McGovern. Cooper Lord comes on. I was hoping that we wouldn't need to move Lewis Young down back, because I thought it was working. And as we get into that second quarter, we were just all over them. Youngie kicks that goal. Thought Harry Mackay, and I don't know if it'll get spoken about, because I think a lot of the focus will be around his game-winning or match-sealing goal. And fair enough, but his work rate around the ground was exceptional. He had Dougal Howard huffing and puffing, and you really saw at the ground, Harry's engine and how he was able to work over Dougal Howard, and he just found space because his aerobic capacity was at such a level that Dougal Howard just could not go with him for long enough, and that was impressive. Then we're up by about 4 goals, and I thought, wow, we could really start blowing this out. But to the Saints' credit, they got back in the game. Philippou kicks a goal. Higgins earns a free kick, flails a little bit, but whatever. And then we're up and about. And then the next wave of injuries happens. I didn't see Lockie Cowan with the hamstring, but that happens. Nick Haynes cops a bad head knock, who, by the way, Nick Haynes is him. His ability to read the ball in the air is exceptional. And together with Jack Silvani, they are proving that sometimes you just need to be patient and give the team some time to settle. And that is definitely another reminder for me. But that happens, and go to halftime, in control of the game for the most part, and then get to the seat at the start of the third quarter, and I see the bench, and it just didn't look good. I think at this stage, Cowan's off, McGovern's done. Lewis Young had to go back. Cherry's in the back line. Nick Haynes He's getting assessed. So the great work of team selection and the great work of the strategy going into the game had to be adjusted. And that was concerning because I thought, again, I mean, you have that respect for Ross Lyon as a coach and his tactics, but they seem to, I don't know what they were doing, the Saints. They seem to want to slow the game down, which in the end played into our hands. And if you watch Michael Voss's press conference, he does mention it a little bit late in his presser, which I thought was an interesting bit there. But the Saints didn't really capitalize on much of the play in the third quarter on the scoreboard in particular. It was a bit of an arm wrestle for a while. At this point, we hadn't kicked a goal in a little while, missing a few crucial opportunities. Both teams really were. And then we get to the fourth, starts to get pretty tense, not going to lie. I did have a confidence that we were in control of the game, but because of the nature of the injuries and the rotations and how that would be impacted, I just thought at some point the Saints would speed up the game, blow it up, and just run us off our legs. And I think, particularly if you're at the game, the Blues were so organised behind the ball. The communication behind the ball, the synergy behind the ball, and it just goes to show in a game where you lose key players in positions, you have to make changes. So all of a sudden, mentally, a player who's prepared to play in the forward line has to go back, or in Adam Chera's case, who playing in the midfield and playing well has to go into defence. All of a sudden, you see that with the right application and the right intensity and the right synergy, it can work. And I think that's what makes last week and some of the other weeks in the season frustrating. But you know, it was all stacked up against the Blues and they found a way. The Saints get on a roll. Sinclair kicks a goal out of stoppage. Durden misses a set shot, which I thought was gettable. Will White gets pinged for holding the ball. I thought it was stiff. I thought he got hit a little bit above the shoulder just before it. But Philippou kicks a goal. At this point, the margin's 3 points. And then 2 passages of play really just iced the game. So the first one, brilliant piece of work to work the ball up the ground. Harry ends up finding Cooper Lord for a shot. Mark was about 49 metres, 48 metres from goal. I didn't think he had the distance in him, and I just didn't think that position on the ground where he was taking the shot was the one where he was going to be able to kick it. But he does, and I was pleasantly surprised at that. And then Harry Mackay from the boundary line. Poetic, given what the game was all about, the theme of the game, the build-up, the storyline of Harry Mackay and his season and having to put his hand up and take some time away for himself, and goes back on the boundary line and kicks a drop punt and flushes it on the sweet spot, and the crowd goes wild and the Blues beat the Saints, and it was good night at the footy. A great night at the footy. Friday night, MCG. Had to earn it. Had to be done the hard way. Came in with a game plan, which, by the way, was effective, and then had to change the game plan midway through due to injuries and due to things out of our control, and still were able to get the job done. And I think that is an important characteristic of the win. It's not that beating the Saints last night means that the Blues are back, and it means more than what it is, just 4 points. It's just more about, okay, building confidence that the characteristics of this team, like they have it in them. When they do lock in, when they do focus, even when things are stacked against them that are out of their control, they're able to stick together and get the job done. So, yeah, I'm pleased. I'm very pleased with the win. The record looks a lot better. Going to move on next week to Sydney, Friday night. And, yeah, I'm striking the balance between enjoying the win and understanding that we're not begging for wins like we were in 2022. Do you remember that? Like the wins early in the season, we were just so happy to be winning again. There's definitely been a maturity in the way in which I watch wins now. Like I do enjoy them, of course, and I smile. But at the end of the day, all that matters is the end of the season. So it's just one of, hopefully 14 plus wins that we're after. We need 10 more minimum. 13, I think, will qualify you for finals, maybe 14, 16, 17, and then you start talking about top 4 conversations. But at this point in time, you can't look so far ahead. It's literally just got to be week by week. And this week was a good week, and hopefully we can consolidate next week and be talking about a win away from home in Sydney against the Swans. So that was that. I tell you what, Jack Silvani and Nick Haynes, I can't really split the two as best on ground. Nick Haynes, there was a passage of play. I don't remember exactly which quarter it was. He intercepts the ball. I think he just spoils it, but it happened right in front of me, and he just keeps himself so aware. He's so intelligent in reading the eyesight of the opposition player who has the ball in hand and just sort of knowing how to edge himself neither here or there. And so when that kick gets made, he just reads it so well. So yeah, he's been great. I was fearful that he was way past his best footy at the Giants, and it didn't look great in his first game. But to be fair, it's pretty much after Richmond. I think Richmond, he had a few moments which weren't great, and I was worried. But he's been excellent. I'm glad. I'm glad for him. And then Jack Silvani, who I had to spend years reading comments around he's only playing because of his last name. It's good to see him really find the best form of his career. Let's be honest. That's what it is. So, yeah, pleased. We'll move on. Go from there. It's a good game. Let me know what you think. What was your sentiment around round 9 against the Saints? Let's chat about it in the comments below, and we'll go from there. Go Blues.